Baba Vanga's predictions for 2026. 6 Zodiac signs will become rich and happy in 2026. When Baba Vanga spoke about the future, her words sounded not like guesses, but like clear vectors of change. That is why her prophecy about the 6 signs of the Zodiac that will become rich and truly happy in 2026 attracted special attention. This is not a coincidence or a general phrase. It is a separate formula of destiny that can turn the lives of those who find themselves among the chosen ones upside down. On the Horoscope of Luck 2026 channel, you receive information not for curiosity, but for action. Here, every word is a targeted signal. Every prediction is a specific guideline that opens the way to resources, success, and inner strength. And today, what has long remained hidden will be revealed. Which signs will get the chance to break through to a new level of prosperity and experience what people call a real turning point in their destiny? Before diving into the details, ask yourself, are you ready to accept knowledge that could change your next year? If so, subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss a single message, because there are many more revelations ahead, and each of them could be the key for you. Aries. When it comes to money and personal power, Aries is at the forefront of Baba Vanga's predictions for 2026. The year will not bring easy gifts from the sky, but it will provide such clear opportunities that only those who completely ignore their own abilities will miss them. For Aries, 2026 looks like a year when they will have to stop playing for small stakes, stop agreeing to meager offers, and finally reach a level where each decision they make determines not just their monthly income, but the quality of their entire life. The main message of the year for Aries is to stop wasting energy on trifles. The prediction shows that the greatest wealth in 2026 will come not so much from additional side jobs, but from a clear focus on 1, maximum 2 key areas. If you are working, trying your hand at business, launching projects, and at the same time trying to prove your case to everyone, your money will disappear. It is worth choosing a direction that can really multiply your income: your own business, a career leap in your current job, a transition to a new field with higher rates, or converting your experience into expertise, courses, consultations, author services. Aries, who in 2026 will stop wasting money on everything, will join the ranks of those who are able to increase their capital several times over. The prediction points to a sharp contrast between 2 types of Aries. The first type is those who continue to stick to old patterns, afraid to ask for higher pay, agreeing to conditions so as not to lose, putting up with toxic clients, partners, and bosses. The second type is those who finally stop being afraid of conflict for the sake of justice and adequate pay. 2026 is on the side of the second type. Aries who clearly state their price, set conditions, do not allow their work to be devalued, and receive a new level of respect and money. This prediction is not about random luck, but about setting strict boundaries for yourself. Particularly strong financial potential is clearly visible in those Aries who are involved in initiatives, entrepreneurship, sales, management positions, areas where you need to make decisions and lead others. If you have endured unfair conditions for years but stayed out of politeness, 2026 will literally push you out of your comfort zone. The prediction says, an Aries who is ready to take a decisive step, change jobs, close a loss-making business, give up a partnership where they are being used, will free up space for contracts and opportunities on a completely different level. Money comes not only through work, but also through the courage to rethink your financial model. For Aries in 2026, it becomes critically important to implement simple but strict rules. Set aside part of your income without exception. Do not spend impulsively, limit emotional purchases, and keep at least basic records. Those who take these rules seriously will break out of the cycle of earning and spending, and gradually enter a state where money does not disappear, but accumulates and works for them. The prediction shows that in 2026, Aries will be able to see their real financial reserves for the first time, rather than figures that last for a few days before a big purchase. A separate emphasis is on the ability to bargain and negotiate. For Aries, 2026 is a year when every conversation about money can increase their income. This includes discounts, bonuses, rate increases, and additional options for cooperation. If you are used to accepting the first amount offered, the prediction clearly indicates that it is time to stop being shy and learn to say, "I am not satisfied with this payment. I offer other conditions." It is in these conversations that you will find unexpected additional tens of % to your annual profit. Your circle of contacts is no less important. For Aries, 2026 is a year of powerful renewal of their environment. The prediction emphasizes that it will not be those who are familiar and long known who will remain close, but those who really pull you up. People who live in constant complaints, drama, and chaos with money will drain your resources. Aries who continue to spend hours on their problems will experience emotional burnout and stagnation. On the other hand, connections with those who think in terms of development, personal responsibility, and income growth open the door to joint projects, partnerships, and new clients. In terms of personal qualities, foresight sets Aries a specific task to learn to control impulsiveness. It is impulsive reactions, harsh words, hasty decisions, demonstrative insults that have blocked many opportunities in the past. In 2026, the year will test Aries. How will you behave at a critical moment when you need to not yell, not slam the door, but calmly and clearly agree on favorable terms? Aries who pass this internal test will be able to emerge from conflicts not with losses, but with strengthened positions. The sphere of personal happiness in the forecast is not separated from the financial one. For Aries, 2026 is not about choosing either money or relationships. This is a year when you will have to honestly see whether your partner, loved ones, and life model support your movement toward prosperity or subconsciously pull you back. If you have someone around who constantly devalues your ideas, fears any change, and demands that you stay where things are stable, albeit unpromising, this becomes a serious obstacle to break through. Aries who dare to speak openly and seek partners who can share their ambitions are taking a big step toward harmony. Money goes to those who have no internal conflict between the desire to develop and the fear of disappointing someone. The prediction shows the importance of taking care of your health. Aries have a strong tendency to earn first, then rest. But in 2026, excessive overload could result in serious breakdowns. No wealth lasts long if the body is constantly working to exhaustion. Those Aries who consciously incorporate rest, sleep, exercise, and breaks into their schedule will find it much easier to withstand all the financial challenges of the year without nervous breakdowns. The condition of the body will directly affect the quality of decisions and, consequently, income. Separately, it is worth paying attention to the topic of education. In 2026, any improvement in qualifications, mastering new tools, digital skills, and modern approaches in your field of work will be especially beneficial for Aries. The prediction says, if you invest in practical knowledge that can be monetized in the near future, these investments will pay off quickly and with a bonus. Trying to save on development will lead to you remaining at a level where competition is high and pay is low. Aries who are not afraid to go back to school will raise their market value. Aries' financial opportunities in 2026 are linked to specific actions: launching their own product, moving into a higher price segment, entering new markets, collaborating with foreign clients, and expanding their range of services. This is a time when you cannot limit yourself to local frameworks or old models. The prediction indicates that those Aries who think more broadly and are ready to work with an online audience and clients from other cities and countries will significantly increase their profits. Courage and flexibility are key here. Internally, 2026 changes Aries' attitude toward the concept of wealth. Whereas before, it might have been dreams of a one-time big win or a sudden chance. Now the emphasis shifts to a stable system, regular income, multiple sources of income, a financial cushion, and conscious investments. Aries, who stops waiting for a miracle in one payment and builds a real financial foundation, enters the category of the rich, not only in terms of the amount in their account, but also in terms of a sense of security. Happiness for Aries in the 2026 forecast also does not seem like something abstract. It is connected with very earthly things: the opportunity to live where it is comfortable, to work in conditions that are not degrading, to surround oneself with people with whom one does not have to constantly fight, to allow oneself a rest that truly restores rather than simply masking fatigue. Aries, who has previously lived in a state of constant struggle, will finally get a chance to experience what it is like to build reality not from a position of survival, but from a position of choice. Baba Vanga's prediction for 2026 clearly singles out Aries among the signs that can become not just successful, but truly wealthy and satisfied with their lives. The conditions are simple but demanding. Stop settling for less. Learn to bargain for your price. Renew your environment. Take control of your impulses. Invest in your own knowledge and health. And think outside the box. For those Aries who accept these rules, 2026 will be a year of transition to a new level of prosperity and inner peace, when money comes not as a random gift, but as a natural result of mature decisions. Gemini. For Gemini, 2026 will be the year when intelligence, reaction speed, and the ability to work with information will begin to bring not symbolic bonuses, but full-fledged financial results. According to Baba Vanga's prophecy, Gemini will be among the few who will be able to turn a chaotic flow of opportunities into a clearly structured flow of money and real-life comfort. People of this sign will not simply get lucky. They will find new ways to use everything they have long been able to do: talk, negotiate, analyze, and bring people, ideas, and resources together. The year will not require Gemini to give up their natural multitasking abilities, but it will force them to learn to set priorities. The main value of 2026 for this sign is the ability to transform scattered knowledge into specific products, services, and solutions that other people will be willing to pay for. Where previously, Gemini simply shared advice. Just because, in the new year, they will refocus on consulting, mentoring, expert services, educational projects, mediation, and information support. In January, Gemini will change their way of thinking about money. The habit of compensating for internal tension with spontaneous purchases will fade into the background. Instead, interest in systems will come to the fore. Budgeting, income planning, breaking down goals into specific steps. People of this sign will create tables, lists, and roadmaps, even if they did not like such things before. January will form the basic framework on which all subsequent opportunities of the year will be superimposed. February will activate the theme of contacts. Gemini will receive numerous messages, invitations, and requests. Friends, acquaintances, Former colleagues, partners, and clients will get in touch with offers, questions, and requests. The key task will be not to get lost in this flow, but to divide it into two categories: those connections that will open the way to money and development, and those that will keep you in a state of eternal help without return. Gemini will learn to say no to people who have been using their time and advice for years without any reciprocity. March will bring a clear sense that information is capital. People of this sign will realize that their head is their main asset, not just their hands or working hours. During this period, Gemini will form their expert image in the field where they already have experience, working with texts, teaching, consulting, sales, marketing, media, languages, and services. They will structure their experience into formats that can be sold: author programs, service packages, personal support, and individual paid consultations. April will be the first real test of determination. New contracts, projects, and cooperation proposals will appear that will require clear agreements, terms, amounts, and responsibilities. If earlier Gemini often made concessions and agreed to unfavorable conditions so as not to miss an opportunity, in April, they will more clearly articulate their value. This will not be aggression, but a professional position. People of this sign will allow themselves to refuse formats where their talent is taken for granted. May will stand out as a period of scaling. At this time, Gemini will go beyond the boundaries of one format of work. If they are already working in the offline sphere, they will add an online direction. If they already have a customer base, they will begin to create a public presence: pages, channels, blogs, newsletters. Where information used to simply accumulate in their head, in May it will be turned into content that will work for them longer than a single conversation. It is in this month that the potential for passive or semi-passive income will be laid. Materials that are created once will then be sold or bring in new customers again and again. June 2026 will be largely associated with audience expansion. Gemini will reach out to people from other cities, countries, and cultures. Foreign languages, international platforms, and collaborations with people from different fields may be added. The year will push this sign to stop thinking narrowly, not just the local market, not just their own environment, but the wider scene. For some, this will be online learning. For others, participation in international projects. And for others, working for clients whom Gemini will never see in person, but who will pay well for their skills. July will bring tension related to a large number of tasks. People of this sign will be torn between parallel projects, family matters, and personal plans. This is where their ability to delegate and structure their day will be tested. Gemini will learn to identify the most valuable tasks that bring the greatest financial return and postpone everything that does not bring noticeable results. If previously a significant part of the day was spent on meaningless communication, in July, the format of communication will change. More specifics, clear agreements, and limited time for aimless conversations. August will force you to take a look at your lifestyle. The year will push Gemini to stop treating high activity as the norm if it does not generate the corresponding income. People of this sign will analyze which actions bring money and which only bring exhaustion. Unnecessary projects where the payoff does not match the resources expended will be cut off. Instead, those areas where Gemini's ideas are valued and people are willing to pay for them accordingly will remain. August will be a time when financial growth will be combined with preserving the nervous system. Less chaos, more structure. September 2026 will be devoted to building long-term structures. Gemini will not just catch one-time orders, but will form partnerships where payment will come regularly. These can be subscription formats, regular customers, support contracts, and long-term educational programs. People of this sign will shift from thinking how to make ends meet this month to thinking how to plan income for several months in advance. It is in September that the foundation will be laid for 2026, to be remembered as the year of reaching a new level of stability. October will highlight the topic of reputation. Other people's opinions about the work of Gemini will directly affect their earnings. Reviews, recommendations, and word of mouth will work harder than any advertising. If, up to this point, people of this sign have taken a responsible approach to deadlines, quality, and ethics, in October, they will begin to feel how others turn to them on recommendation. This will mean that money will come not only through active search, but also because others will bring new clients to them.
November, in Baba Vanga's prophecy for Gemini, will be depicted as a month when informational experience will turn into very specific assets. Some representatives of this sign will launch their own products: books, courses, software solutions, proprietary methodologies, and paid closed communities. Each of these products will be one of the elements of future capital. People of this sign will feel that their experience and knowledge are no longer lost in everyday conversations, but are being transformed into something that can be bought, saved, sent,
and passed on to others. December will end the year with the feeling that a key fear will disappear from the chaotic lives of Gemini: the fear of financial uncertainty. There will be greater transparency. It will be clear where the money comes from, where it goes, and what needs to be changed if necessary. People of this sign will take stock and notice an increase in turnover. The amounts on their cards, accounts, and in their wallets will be different from previous years. Not only will there be a surplus, but also a new level of confidence when life's demands do not have to be automatically cut back. A separate line in 2026 for Gemini will concern the ability to monetize their versatility. Where others will be afraid to change direction, Gemini will boldly move from one format to another, from salaried work to partial self-employment, from a complete offline presence to online, from a narrow specialty to a wider range of services. Many representatives of this sign will have not one, but 2 or 3 sources of income: their main activity, a parallel project, and an additional information channel, such as a blog, channel, or consulting. It is this diversification that will make Gemini financially stable. If one channel temporarily yields less, the others will pick up the slack. Happiness in the life of this sign in 2026 will be different than before. It will no longer depend solely on emotional intensity and novelty of experiences. Gemini will derive pleasure from the feeling that their words, ideas, and knowledge have real weight in the material world. They will observe how others change their projects thanks to their advice, how their texts, strategies, and recommendations bring results. This recognition of the value of intellectual work will give a deeper sense of meaning than temporary entertainment or random impressions. An important element of the prophecy will be the theme of self-esteem. In 2026, Gemini will look at their own talents differently. If they previously had a habit of devaluing themselves because they don't create anything with their hands or just talk a lot, now these qualities will be perceived as the basis of their profession. The ability to explain complex things in simple words, to see connections between seemingly unrelated things, to find the right information and convey it to others. All this will be considered a resource that others are willing to pay for. The monetary energy of the year will respond to discipline in the information space. Gemini will change their own media environment, less chaotic consumption of content, fewer comparisons with the successes of others, less influence of negativity. Instead, there will be more professional sources, analytics, and educational materials that will help in work and broaden horizons. Such an intellectual diet will also change financial results. The less noise, the more accurate the decisions will be, and the faster the reward will come. In relationships with others, 2026 will be a test of honesty for Gemini. People of this sign will be forced to recognize who really supports their development and who only uses them as a source of ideas and emotional release. Relationships that were based solely on habit will be broken, and new contacts will be established, where respect will be mutual. Financial and personal success in Baba Vanga's prophecy for this sign will go hand in hand. The more people around them who recognize the competence of Gemini, the more joint projects, partnerships, and shared income there will be. Along with finances, 2026 will touch on the topics of everyday life and living conditions. Gemini will have the opportunity to improve their living space, move to a more convenient location, renovate, buy appliances and furniture, and create an environment around themselves that promotes productivity. The feeling of transience and randomness will disappear. More and more decisions will be aimed at long-term comfort. This will be another form of wealth, the ability not to adapt to other people's limitations, but to build a space where thoughts work better and strength is restored faster. Another important topic is language and communication. In 2026, Gemini will feel particularly strongly how money depends on wording. The same content, presented in different ways, will elicit completely different responses. People of this sign will improve their ability to present their services, negotiate, and formulate proposals. They will test different options: how to talk to management, how to talk to partners, how to talk to clients, how to talk to an audience. As a result of this work, every important conversation in 2026 will have the potential to bring not just emotional satisfaction, but a specific contract, payment, or cooperation agreement. In a small group of signs that Baba Vanga will talk about as the richest and happiest in 2026, Gemini will play the role of the one who will turn words into resources. They will not wait for gifts from fate, nor will they rely solely on luck. Instead, they will constantly adjust their own system: information into knowledge, knowledge into a service or product, service into income, and income into lasting comfort and freedom of choice. It is this sequence that will make this sign one of those who, at the end of 2026, will not only have more money, but also a clear understanding. The path to wealth and happiness is created by their own decisions, the use of their strengths, and a willingness to appreciate what for a long time seemed to be just the ability to speak and think faster than others. Cancer. According to Baba Vanga's prediction, throughout 2026, Cancer will be among those for whom money and personal comfort will begin to form a coherent system. People of this sign will not acquire wealth by accident. Every step, every decision, every yes and every no will gradually form a new level of life, where financial opportunities will be combined with a sense of inner security. The year will encourage Cancer to stop hiding from large sums of money, influential people, and serious responsibilities, and finally recognize that their character, attentiveness, and ability to care for and protect can bring in big money. Cancer's financial trajectory in 2026 will be based not on risk, but on a consistent change in habits and environment. In January, this sign will take the first step. It will begin to view its finances as a system rather than a chaotic set of payments. A clear picture will emerge: how much money comes in each month, what expenses are mandatory, and what can be cut without losing quality of life. Cancer will give up unnecessary subscriptions, impulse purchases, and mood loans. In January, they will establish a rule. No large payment will be made without asking, "What will this give me in a year?" In February, Cancer will begin to pay more attention to the people who influence their money. The prediction shows that this month will reveal who creates financial opportunities and who constantly pushes them to spend or holds them back from development. Some acquaintances will lose their significance. People who for years have encouraged Cancers to not stick their necks out, not take risks, and not ask for more will gradually fade into the background. Instead, new contacts will appear. Those who view money as a tool rather than a threat. Cancer will learn to talk about their abilities calmly and confidently, without self-deprecation and phrases like, "It's nothing, nothing special." March will be the month when Cancer begins to set boundaries around their time and energy. It is here that many will see how deeply ingrained the habit of working for everyone around, and only then remembering about themselves, is. Throughout March, people of this zodiac sign will begin to convert some of their free assistance into paid formats. If they prepare, advise, organize, manage processes, or support others, all of this will begin to take shape not as just help, but as a full-fledged service. For many Cancers, this month will be the point at which their talent for caring for others will become a source of stable income. April will bring the first real confirmation that the new approaches will work. People of this sign will receive specific offers: a promotion, a new position, additional hours with better pay, a long-term client, or participation in a joint business. The main task is not to shy away from opportunities out of fear of responsibility. Cancer will face a choice: to remain in a comfortable but limited zone, or to accept conditions that require more effort but open up another financial level. The prediction shows that it is precisely those Cancers who agree to come out of the quiet shadows in April who will join the group of the richest representatives of their sign this year. In May, the focus will shift towards home and space. Cancer is always closely connected to home, and 2026 will use this as a key resource. People of this sign will begin to transform their square meters into a source of additional income, or a place where it will be easier and more productive to work. This could be setting up a separate work corner, studio, study, small home office, or even moving to a more functional home. May will be the month when Cancer realizes that a comfortable home does not take away money, but helps to multiply it, if the space is organized for real goals, and not for whatever happens. June will activate the theme of professional mastery. Cancer will begin to increase their level of competence, not with theoretical courses just in case, but with precise steps in their own field. This could be a new tool at work, modern software, team management techniques, or in-depth study of financial literacy. The forecast shows that investing in practical skills in June will very quickly begin to pay off in the form of higher pay in the second half of the year. July will be a period when Cancer will feel the first significant changes in cash flow. Income will begin to expand. Bonuses, new clients, additional projects, and often offers of cooperation with people who previously seemed unattainable will appear. But at the same time, July will test whether the old scenario of earned it, spent it all, will return. People of this sign will face a choice: to consolidate the new level or to dissolve the growth in ill-considered expenses again. For those who can maintain balance, this month will be the first real step towards accumulating capital, not just increasing turnover. August will be full of interaction with other people. The prediction indicates that Cancer will narrow their circle of close friends to reasonable limits. Fewer acquaintances out of politeness, more purposeful contacts with those who could be partners, mentors, or clients. During this time, Cancerians will learn to calmly say no to requests that are not related to their goals but require significant energy. The freed-up resources will be invested in projects that have a real financial impact. August will be the month when Cancer ceases to be a quiet support for everyone and begins to act as a person who manages their own time and income. September will bring structure. Here, Cancer will reach a new level of planning. Financial goals for the end of the year will be clearly defined, as well as the specific amounts needed to realize important desires: their own home, travel, children's education, business development, and personal reserves. Cancer will understand how much money they need to live without stress, how much for growth, and how much for a secure reserve. If before they acted on the principle of whatever happens, in September, the basis will be the formula first plan, then act. October will be a period when many Cancers will begin to see tangible results from their consistency. This is a time when large sums are possible: lucrative deals, signing long-term contracts, completing projects with substantial fees, first dividends, income from real estate or investments. People of this sign will see how their self-esteem changes when money ceases to be a source of shame and fear. Cancer will allow themselves a better standard of living without feeling guilty for living not like everyone else, but better. November will emphasize inner freedom. Cancer will feel that they are no longer forced to agree to humiliating conditions for the sake of stability. They will have the right to choose whom to work with, which projects to take on, and which offers to reject without internal conflict. Those representatives of the sign who take advantage of this freedom will cement a new role. Not a convenient employee, but a full-fledged partner who is respected and taken into account. December will be the logical conclusion to a year of consolidation. The forecast shows that Cancer will enter this month with a more orderly financial reality than ever before. Their accounts will not only have a balance until payday, but also specific savings. Their home will contain things bought not out of desperation, but consciously. They will be surrounded by people with whom they can not only share their problems, but also build joint projects. It is in December that Cancer will be able to look back and see how far they have come from their former model of quiet survival. In addition to monthly developments, 2026 will change the basic monetary psychology of this sign. Cancer will cease to perceive wealth as something dangerous that provokes envy, conflict, or the loss of loved ones. Gradually, a different position will form: wealth as protection, as an opportunity to provide better conditions for those they care about, as a resource for development, not just for consumption. People of this sign will gradually understand that saving is not greed, but responsibility to themselves and those around them. The topic of reserves will occupy a special place in the prediction. Cancer will create a rule for themselves. Part of any income will be immediately set aside, untouched and undiscussed. This reserve will grow slowly but surely. Thanks to it, Cancer will not have to fear unexpected events in 2026. Breakdowns, medical expenses, changes at work. Where before a single surprise could ruin a month, now the situation will be resolved calmly, without panic or loans. In the professional sphere, Cancer will gradually move from the role of the one who suffers to the position of the one who sets the rules. They will be expected to be structured, predictable, and reliable, and this will become a valuable resource. Managers, clients, and partners will see them as someone who can be trusted with complex processes, important documents, and financial flows. This trust will be monetized through allowances, bonuses, access to information and projects where random people are not invited. For those Cancers who are involved in their own business, 2026 will bring a gradual increase in scale. Instead of fighting for each individual client, there will be larger contracts, and one-off orders will begin to change to stable formats. For some representatives of the sign, this will be a move from small retail to working with wholesale buyers. For some, it will be a transition from one-off consultations to programs lasting several months. For others, it will be cooperation with organizations instead of individual private clients. As for personal happiness, in 2026, it will be closely linked to a sense of security. People of this sign will finally allow themselves not to live in a state of constant anxiety about tomorrow. There will be fewer nights when thoughts of debts, bills, and fear of devaluation at work will spin in their heads. Instead, there will be more time and energy for loved ones, hobbies, health, and development. Cancer will no longer live by the principle of everyone else first, then me sometime. They will begin to include themselves in the list of those who need to be taken care of first. The strategic effect of 2026 for this sign will be that Cancer will learn to combine emotionality with rationality. They will not become cold, but will learn to protect themselves from situations where their feelings are manipulated, forcing them to work for the idea where there should be payment. They will be able to feel the needs of others without forgetting their own. It is this combination of subtle sensitivity and sober calculation that will allow them to join the 6 zodiac signs that Baba Vanga's prediction for 2026 will name as both wealthy and truly satisfied with their lives. Cancer will not chase money for the sake of status. He will build a system where every amount has a specific meaning, to ensure peace of mind, to support those he loves, to create conditions in which he does not have to choose between surviving and living like a human being. That is why for this sign, 2026 will become not just a financially successful period, but a year of profound internal restructuring, after which they will no longer return to the old patterns in which money was always a cause for fear rather than a source of freedom. Leo. For Leo, 2026 will be a year of massive growth, according to Baba Vanga's prediction, in which money, status, and influence will finally come together. People of this sign will not be satisfied with secondary roles, random side jobs, and minor promotions. Their lives will gradually transform into a trajectory where every step toward greater responsibility will be rewarded with increased income, and every display of leadership will be rewarded with expanded opportunities. Leos will not wait for someone to allow them to take center stage. They will take that position themselves, and that is why they will be among the 6 signs that will be considered rich and truly satisfied with their lives in 2026. The beginning of the year will lay the foundation for this leap forward. January will be a month when Leo will coldly analyze what will really bring him money, influence, and prospects, and what keeps him within the confines of habit. Work, projects, and relationships that exist only out of inertia will become particularly apparent. Leos will compare their real value with what they actually receive: salary, interest, bonuses, recognition. Where the imbalance is too obvious, they will make an internal decision to change the rules of the game. In January, they will not yet break ties abruptly, but will already be preparing the ground for negotiations and new agreements. The second month, February, will focus Leo's attention on his public image. People of this sign will begin to show the world what they can do, their work, projects, competencies, and results. This will not be a display of pride, but a strategic strengthening of their position. Leos will update their personal profiles portfolios, and presentations, presenting their achievements in a clear way so that managers, partners, and potential clients can see who they are dealing with. In February, they will stop hiding their strengths and will no longer accept the role of the one everyone knows, but no one truly appreciates. March will bring the first signs that the course chosen is the right one. At this time, Leo will receive specific offers, management tasks, participation in large projects, invitations to partnerships, increased responsibility. This will be the moment when refusing for the sake of peace of mind will mean losing a significant part of the year's potential. People of this sign will face a choice to stay in their old niche or take a position where they have to make decisions for others, manage teams, and be responsible for budgets. Those who decide to take on this burden will move towards a significant increase in income by the middle of the year. The second quarter of the year will be crucial for finances. In April, Leos will review their price list. They will feel more clearly that their experience, charisma, and ability to lead others will cost more than was stipulated in contracts in previous years. This will apply to both salaried work, business, and creative endeavors. Leos will raise their rates, ask for raises, reset their prices, agree on percentages of turnover, and introduce performance bonuses. The year will favor the bold. Where they demand adequate pay, resistance will be less than Leos expect, and agreement will come more quickly. May will highlight the theme of big money. This month, Leo's life will be touched by sums that he has previously talked about more often than he has actually held in his hands. We are not talking about random winnings, but about serious fees, sales volumes, project budgets, consulting fees, and participation in large deals. People of this sign will learn not to be intimidated by large numbers, not to diminish themselves in negotiations, and not to lower their price at the last moment. The task for May is to teach Leos to handle large sums of money calmly, without turning them into a source of fear or ostentatious wastefulness. June will be a period when Leo will work twice as hard to achieve results. The year will not give them the gift of easy money without effort. On the contrary, this month will be very busy. Deadlines, requests, important meetings, and difficult negotiations. However, it is in June that they will lay the foundation for the profits they will receive later in the second half of the year. The more responsibly they approach their commitments, the more powerful the effect will be in the form of bonuses, long-term contracts, and rate increases in the coming months. Summer 2026 will be a symbol of expansion for Leos. July will bring them the feeling that their sphere of influence has really grown. More people will take their opinion into account, more decisions will go through them, and more opportunities will appear where there was no access before. People of this sign will understand that their presence in any process will begin to influence how resources are distributed. At the same time, July will require discipline in spending. Large sums of money can provoke impulsive purchases for status, and whether the year turns into real capital growth or just a period of loud but fleeting spending will depend on the Leo's ability to restrain themselves. August will immerse the sign in the theme of image. Leo will always be seen, evaluated, and copied. In 2026, this will have a direct financial effect. The more professional, collected, and consistent he looks in the eyes of those around him, the easier it will be to conclude deals, negotiate money, and open up new levels for himself. In August, this sign will change its style, daily routine, and the way it presents itself at meetings, on social media, and in professional circles. The prediction shows that this month, Leo will begin to be treated as a person who is trusted not only because of their charisma, but also because of their sense of reliability. September will be the month when Leo will actively implement systems. Where previously everything was based on their inner inspiration and willpower, in 2026 they will add structure, financial tables, monthly and quarterly income plans, sales plans, content release schedules, and a calendar of negotiations. This may sound dry, but it is precisely this structure that will allow this sign to move from isolated successful breakthroughs to stable profits. In September, Leo will understand that even the brightest talent will not get very far without a system. Autumn will lead Leos down the highway of big decisions. October will activate the theme of investments and large purchases. People of this sign will view money as a resource for strengthening their position, not just as a means of consumption. At this time, decisions may be made to purchase real estate, a car, professional equipment, join a profitable business, or move to a different level of housing. At the same time, Leos will choose not what will impress others, but what will actually improve their quality of life and allow them to earn more. November will show how much the environment has changed. During this period, Leos will be surrounded not by random people, but by those who are ready to share plans, responsibilities, and risks. The prediction shows that it is through people that the most interesting financial opportunities will come to them. Recommendations, closed tenders, internal vacancies, partnership projects, and joint ventures. Leo will realize that their ability to take a hit, make unpopular decisions, and remain calm in tense situations will make them an indispensable figure in the most important processes. They will be paid for this. December will end the year with a feeling of entering a new orbit. By this point, Leo will no longer have abstract dreams of wealth, but concrete figures that will confirm that their income has grown significantly. Their debts have decreased or disappeared completely. They have savings, and they have clear plans for their next big steps. At the end of the year, Leo will not grab any project just for the sake of it. He will choose what corresponds to his new level. This will be the best confirmation that the path of 2026 has not been wasted. A separate block of predictions is related to Leo's inner state. Throughout the year, they will get rid of their deep-seated fear of losing control. It is this fear that will often prevent them from taking decisive financial steps, changing jobs, closing an unprofitable project, entering a new niche where not everything is clear at first. In 2026, he will learn to trust himself more than circumstances. Leo will perceive risk not as a threat, but as a price to pay for a higher level. He will not make reckless bets, but will be ready to step out of his comfort zone where the reward looks worthwhile. The sphere of health and energy will also work for money. People of this sign often have a powerful inner drive, but can become exhausted from the constant race. In 2026, Leo will learn to plan recovery as clearly as business processes. Regular sleep, physical activity, proper nutrition, checkups, and giving up destructive habits will not be a fashionable trend, but a practical step that will directly affect the ability to keep up a fast pace and make profitable decisions. The better they take care of their body, the more confidently they will maintain their financial standards. In relationships with loved ones, Leos will transition to a new model of interaction. They will not carry the entire financial burden, expecting someone to appreciate their self-sacrifice. Instead, they will establish rules where responsibility and decisions are shared. Family and partners will see them not only as a source of money, but also as an ally who plans the future with them. This will reduce hidden resentment and tension and allow Leos to feel that they are not alone in this race for quality of life. Professionally, in 2026, Leo will play the role of a person who will be consulted when something needs to be decided, not just a task to be performed. The ability to take responsibility, defend the team, not back down under pressure, and get what they want in negotiations will all become a resource for them that can be directly monetized. Organizations, clients, and partners will be willing to pay to have such a person in key positions. Leos who use 2026 in the direction indicated in Baba Vanga's prediction will not limit themselves to a one-time increase in income. They will lay the foundation on which they can then build even bigger projects. The transition from earning a month's salary to building a system that will work for years will be the main theme of this year. That is why, at the end of the period, Leo will not only have more money, but will also feel like the master of their own reality, rather than a player tossed about by circumstances. Among the 6 signs that 2026 will bring wealth and a deep sense of success to, Leo will occupy the position of someone who combines money with authority. They will not seek cheap profits, will not sell themselves below their own value, and will not agree to minor roles in big stories. Instead, they will build their own line. Clearly formulated goals, well thought out decisions, the choice of strong allies, a willingness to take responsibility, and the ability to calmly look at large sums of money without losing their sobriety. This is what will make Leo one of the most striking examples of how, in 2026, wealth and happiness will come to those who are not afraid to live to the fullest of their sign. Virgo. In Baba Vanga's visions for 2026, Virgo will emerge as a sign that will transform chaotic reality into a finely tuned mechanism of prosperity. Representatives of this sign will not chase random opportunities, because the year itself will bring them to such a level of precision in their decisions that money will go where everything is thought out, calculated, and organized into a system. Virgos will not just increase their income, they will design a new model of life where finances, work, home, and personal satisfaction will work as a single, well-coordinated organism. For Virgos, 2026 will resemble a large-scale, long-term project. They will set themselves tasks, break them down into stages, plan resources and deadlines. There will be no empty promises of sometime later. Instead, there will be clear steps: when she will change her working conditions, when she will start charging more for her services, when she will close old financial loose ends, when she will launch a new direction. Each month of the year will have a separate place in her plan, and it is thanks to this that this sign will fall into the group that Vanga once called one of the richest and most peaceful in 2026. Virgo will use January as a month of global revision. She will not limit herself to a single list of expenses. She will have tables, files, and records where everything will be visible. Sources of income, debts, regular payments, subscriptions, small and large expenses. She will record real amounts rather than relying on approximate feelings. During this period, Virgos will set new financial rules for themselves, not to spend automatically, not to take out loans just for fun, and to refuse payments that are of no use in the long run. It is in January that they will set their first real financial goals for 2026 in numbers rather than general phrases. In February, Virgos will focus on work processes. They will begin to cut out unnecessary bureaucracy, pointless tasks, and extra working hours that do not provide a proportional income. Where they have been forced to perform 3 roles for 1 salary, they will raise this issue openly. Where her skills were used as an additional bonus, she will formalize them into job responsibilities and pay. The forecast shows that in February, Virgo will prepare the ground for a change in the format of work. Either the contract and pay will become fairer, or she will already be internally ready to look for other conditions. March will be the first month when Virgo begins to shift her attention from saving to earning. She will understand that cutting costs can only go so far. and then income growth is needed. At this time, she will look at which of her skills can be monetized more expensively: analytics, structure, systematization, process organization, quality control, and mentoring. She will see that many people around her need her ability to put things in order, but she did not previously perceive this as a separate valuable product. In March, Virgo will lay the groundwork for charging money for what she previously did out of inertia or out of a sense of duty. April will mark the beginning of a period of active career restructuring. This month, Virgo will have specific opportunities: higher-paying jobs, offers to move to another department, invitations to another company, ideas for her own business where she can sell her meticulousness as her main advantage. She will weigh up where her experience is truly valued and where it is taken for granted. Where the difference is too great, she will start negotiations for a salary increase, a promotion, a percentage, or bonuses. April will be the month when Virgos' voices in conversations about money will be clearer than before. May will bring the first confirmation of change: signed contracts, new job descriptions, and more favorable terms of cooperation. Virgos will feel that their daily contributions are finally being converted into numbers on their pay slips or in their bank accounts. Some representatives of the sign will simultaneously launch an additional line of business: paid consultations, analytical support, auditing of other people's systems, project management as a coordinator or manager. May will give her the first experience of earning money not only for her salary, but also for separate, clearly defined services. June will focus Virgo's attention on long-term plans. She will look beyond 1 month or quarter. Issues of housing, savings, investments, education for herself or her children, a possible move, and creating a reserve for a rainy day will no longer be postponed. In June, Virgo will make a plan for how much money she needs, not just to pay the bills, but also to feel like she has a solid foundation. She'll study financial tools, look into deposits, insurance products, and investment opportunities. And she'll do it based on numbers, calculations, and basic guarantees, not emotions. July will test how well Virgo can combine work and recovery. By this time, she will already be promoting her new financial model and will be feeling the pressure. In July, she will have the opportunity to take a vacation, change her surroundings, and give up some of the tasks she has been carrying for years. But the year will require that the rest be conscious, not an escape from life, but an investment in strength. Virgo will plan her vacation expenses so that they do not affect the budgets formed in the spring. She will not allow herself to spend everything in one burst of emotion, because she will already understand the value of her new stability. August will set the tone in professional relationships. It will become clear who at work or in business is really building a team with her, and who is just taking advantage of her work ethic and attention to detail. Virgo will bring relationships into a clear format, either mutual interest or fair payment for her contribution. Free long-term backups, endless work for others, and endless cleaning up after colleagues will gradually come to nothing. August will be the month when many will hear a firm no from Virgo for the first time, and this will be an important step towards increasing her income and self-esteem. September will focus on the topic of professional depth. Virgos will choose what knowledge to invest in to sell themselves at a higher price. She will improve her qualifications in areas where her analytical mind will be most valued: finance, accounting, project management, IT consulting, logistics, medicine, education, and any field where precision is essential. Courses, training, specializations, mentoring, all of this will become not an expense, but an investment that will quickly pay off in September. October will allow Virgo to see the dividends of this approach. By this point, she will already have not one, but several sources of income: her main job or business, additional projects, and possibly the first results of her investments. In October, money will come in more regularly rather than in spurts. This will allow her to plan large purchases, equipment for work, furniture, repairs, moving to a more comfortable home. Virgo will not go for the most expensive option for show. She will choose something that will serve for years and will not become a burden. November will focus Virgo on the legal and documentary aspects of her success. She will organize contracts, clarify the terms of cooperation, and check that everything is done in such a way that her interests are protected. Where she previously worked by agreement, there will now be official papers. This will protect her from unforeseen losses, non-payments, and unwanted claims. November will make Virgo's wealth not a temporary surge, but a legally established reality. December will end the year with deep inner insight. Virgo will see that the strength of her sign is not in limiting herself to the last, but in setting up structures so that they serve her. She will enter a new cycle with the understanding that she can afford both proper rest and large purchases and investments without losing her foundation. She will have not only funds, but also a clear system that will attract and retain them. All predictions for Virgo in 2026 will be based on a change in role, from a person who keeps everything under control but does not get the corresponding return. She will become a person who chooses what to control, what to be responsible for, and how much to charge for it. She will not jump into scams and risky schemes. Her path to wealth will be through careful calculation, attentive planning, and consistent weeding out of anything that does not lead to growth. Psychologically, 2026 will change Virgo's attitude toward money. She will stop seeing it as only a source of stress and responsibility. Money will become a tool for her to organize her reality, an opportunity to live in a clean, comfortable, safe space, to travel to places where she can recharge, to work from a place that is convenient for her, to provide herself and her loved ones with quality healthcare, education, and living conditions. She will understand that she is not earning for the future, but for specific, very practical things. Relationships with those around her will also be reformatted. People who for years perceived her value system as boring will see that it is precisely this boringness that will turn into a financial advantage in 2026. Virgo will calmly distance herself from those who constantly drag her into chaos and will get closer to those who value order, transparency, and honest agreements. Colleagues and partners who are able to work as clearly as she does will become her key allies in new projects. In the professional sphere, she will no longer be perceived only as the perfect performer. In 2026, she will increasingly take on the role of setting standards, how the department should work, how to organize the process, how to control quality. Her opinion on issues of structure, regulations, and financial flows will carry more weight. This will directly affect her finances. Her participation in any project will increase its value and, consequently, her pay. An equally important part of her success will be discipline in terms of health. Virgo will review her daily routine, diet, exercise, and medical examinations. She will understand that her ability to work is an asset, and if she neglects it, any wealth will crumble. Therefore, in 2026, she will introduce regular self-care practices and will not allow others to convince her that this is selfish or unnecessary luxury. As a result, throughout 2026, Virgo will create not just more income, but a new standard of living, where there is no place for chaos and eternal financial crises. Her ability to notice details, correct mistakes, and put any process in order will be rewarded in a new way this year. This is what will make her one of those about whom the prophet Baba Vanga will say in 2026. This sign will manage to become both wealthy and internally calm because it will learn to use its precision, not against itself, but to its advantage. Libra. In 2026, Libra will enter a period when every decision in the areas of money, work, and relationships will have a visible financial impact. People of this sign will not exist on autopilot. Their choice between staying as they are and changing the rules of the game will each time affect the amount in their bank account, the quality of their environment, and their sense of satisfaction with their own lives. Baba Vanga's prediction indicates that Libras will be able to combine honest profit, personal freedom, and aesthetics in life, because they will stop trying to please everyone and start considering their own interests first. At the beginning of the year, in January, Libras will be faced with the need for honest financial analysis. They will review all areas where they have long felt injustice. Work, where the responsibility is great, but the pay is lower than that of colleagues. Partnerships, where one person does half the work, but the income is divided roughly. A shared family budget, where someone spends significantly more than they earn, but is not responsible for anything. In January, Libras will not only see these imbalances, but will also prepare to correct them. The first list will appear: what to change, who to talk to, what conditions to voice, what expenses to give up, in order to stop carrying the burden of other people's decisions. In February, negotiations will become Libra's main tool. People of this sign will learn to talk about money calmly, without feeling guilty or making nervous concessions, so as not to spoil relationships. They will sit down at the table with management, partners, clients, and family, and articulate how much effort they put in, what results they produce, and what compensation they expect. Libras will not shout, but they will not remain silent either. Where they used to agree, well, okay, let it be so, just to avoid arguing. In February they will say, I need a clear division of responsibilities and a fair share. It is this month that structures that have stood still for years will begin to move. March will be the first turning point. Some agreements will not be as easy to reach as one would like. Some people at work will not want to recognize the real value of Libras. Some in partnerships will refuse to share influence. And some in business will not agree to transparent accounting. Libras will face the question, should they stay in a system where their interests are ignored, or leave it? Even if it means a little less money at first, but with room for growth. In March, it is the strength of character of this sign that will determine the financial trajectory for the whole year. Those who dare to leave toxic formats will open the way to more lucrative offers in the coming months. April will activate the theme of new opportunities. After the first tough conversations, Libras will begin to receive signals, job openings, offers of side jobs, invitations to other projects, and cooperation from people who previously just watched them from the sidelines. During this period, they will have to learn to distinguish between prospects and beautiful but empty promises. There will be options with lots of talk about a shared future, but no specifics about pay or work format. And there will be offers that are more modest in words, but with clear figures, terms, and responsibilities. Libras will choose where transparency is higher than emotional pressure. This will become the basis for their financial strengthening. In May, the life of Libras will be affected by paperwork. Contracts, agreements, official documents, written responsibilities, specified interest rates, and penalties will all come to the fore. Libras will no longer rely on "we agreed." They will insist on putting any important agreements in writing, whether it's about work, business, or shared finances in the family. This is not mistrust, but a desire to close potential sources of conflict in advance. In May, they will lay the groundwork to protect themselves from situations where someone tries to forget about a promised payment or change the rules retroactively. June will be a month of increasing financial flows. If Libras do not shy away from the need for change in the previous months, during this period they will see an increase in income, bonuses, higher fees, more stable orders, more frequent payments, and a clearer schedule for receiving money. People of this sign will begin to think not only in terms of salary from to, but also the amount that can be invested, saved, or directed toward development. June will give the feeling that the balance between how much energy Libras give and how much they receive will gradually even out. In July, attention will shift from work to the atmosphere of life. Libras will think about the conditions in which the money they earn will be spent. They will look at their home, the quality of their rest, and how they spend their free time. Some Libras will decide to renovate their space. Repairs, new furniture, moving, creating a separate corner for work or creativity. It will not even be the scale of spending that is important, but the fact that each purchase will have meaning, comfort, health, emotional relief, the opportunity to earn more. July will not be a period of uncontrolled shopping, but rather a month of precise, thoughtful investments in the quality of daily life. August will test Libras' ability to maintain a balance between earnings and personal boundaries. With the wave of increased profitability, there may be a temptation to take on all projects in a row so as not to lose a single hryvnia. But this month, overwork and burnout will be especially dangerous. Libras will learn to say, "I've had enough for this month," and not feel guilty about saying no. Where they allow themselves space for their personal life, health, and loved ones, the year will reward them with longer-lasting stability rather than a short burst followed by a sharp decline. September will force them to take a deeper look at their finances with their partners. For those Libras who are in relationships or in business with other people, this will be a month of honest conversations. Who really contributes how much, what commitments they make, what decisions they make. If Libras have been silently shouldering most of the budget or covering for others, in September, they will begin to raise this issue, not in the form of a scandal, but in the format of, "We need a transparent system." If the other side refuses, they will think about how to reduce their financial participation or change the rules. This month is important because it will put an end to years of imbalances in shared finances. October will open up horizons for expanding activities. Libras will see where they can apply their natural talent for harmonization and influence. Mediation, consulting, working with clients, design, beauty, law, sales, PR, events, and education. People of this sign will find that their ability to listen to different sides, find compromises, maintain a good atmosphere, and at the same time not lose their logic is in high demand. In October, the right financial offers may come from those areas where the ability to negotiate, present, and build relationships without conflict is central. November will focus on the topic of personal value. By this point, Libras will already see how their status and income are changing, but at the same time, they will feel the old habit of not disappointing, being convenient, and not asking for too much. November will be a month of internal adjustment. People of this sign will rethink their beliefs about how much they can have. They will catch themselves thinking that ideas such as "I have enough" or "money isn't everything" were often used to explain their own fears of larger sums, responsibility, and influence. In November, Libras will form a new statement. I have the right to fair pay for my work without feeling guilty. December will sum up the year not only in numbers, but also in terms of quality of choice. Libras will assess how successfully they set their priorities, where they agreed to a compromise that strengthened them, and where they refused a deal that lowered their own standards. During this period, many will see the real difference between the start of 2026 and its end. Income level, savings, ability to plan expenses in advance, number of conflicts over money, and a sense of freedom in financial decisions. For those Libras who stay the course of honest profit, December will be a month of quiet but very deep satisfaction with themselves. Beyond the monthly movement, 2026 will greatly influence the financial philosophy of the Libra sign. Where money was previously often associated with awkward conversations, arguments, and worries about how it will look in the eyes of others, a different vision will gradually emerge. Money as a consistent result of adequate self-esteem. Libras will understand that every time they agree to unfair terms, they are not just losing part of their income, they are giving away part of their self-respect. Conversely, every honest contract, every bold conversation about pay, every "I won't work like that," will strengthen both their wallet and their inner core. Aesthetics, which are always important to Libras, will also have a practical dimension. In 2026, people of this sign will fill their lives not with status symbols for the sake of impression, but with things that really improve the quality of everyday life. Comfortable clothes that are comfortable to work in, a well-designed workplace, time-saving technology, an environment where it is pleasant to think, create, and communicate. This approach to spending will create the feeling that money does not disappear into thin air, but returns in the form of better well-being, calmer thoughts, and more pleasant everyday details. An important theme of the year will be the ability to say no to those who come to Libras only for resources. These may be relatives, friends, or colleagues who are used to the fact that people of this sign are always ready to listen, advise, support, invest their own time and even money, without asking for anything in return. In 2026, Libras will gradually change their approach. Support. Yes, but not at the expense of their own stability. They will set boundaries. I am ready to help, but I cannot take on all your problems. I can advise you, but then you have to act on your own. I will not give away my last penny because I am responsible for my budget. This will free up a significant amount of energy that can be directed toward profitable endeavors. At the professional level, in 2026, the focus will gradually shift to formats where their ability to see different sides of an issue and maintain a balance between the interests of different parties will be the main competence. Where they previously worked as rank-and-file employees, it will now make sense to move into roles as coordinators, department heads, experts, and consultants. Where they were already in management, opportunities will arise to influence company policy or terms of cooperation. In such positions, their opinions on how to distribute resources fairly, how to build a motivation system, and how to talk to clients and partners will be highly valued. As for personal happiness, in 2026, it will be directly linked to the ability to live without double standards. The fewer situations there are where they smile, but internally agree to unacceptable conditions, the less internal tension will accumulate. They will notice how easy it is to breathe when no one forces them to be convenient at the expense of their own interests. And that is when their natural need for harmony will cease to conflict with their need for a decent standard of living. Taken together, all these processes will move the scales in 2026 toward a status that combines material stability and emotional comfort. They will not win millions by chance, but will repeatedly make decisions that will add tens and hundreds of thousands to their financial results, protect them from unnecessary losses, and open up access to new levels of cooperation. And it is this approach that will make Libra one of the 6 signs that Baba Vanga's prediction for 2026 will refer to as those who will become both materially stronger and internally much calmer than before. Scorpio. 2026 will look like a year of financial strengthening for Scorpio, where money will be associated not with luck, but with the ability to work with risks, information, and people. Baba Vanga's prediction indicates that Scorpio will be one of the 6 signs that will not only increase their income, but also take control of the key levers of their lives: resources, decisions, and influence. People of this sign will act not on emotions, but on cold calculation. And it is thanks to this that 2026 will take them to another level of prosperity and inner strength. This will be a period when Scorpios will stop agreeing to be in the shadows of the system and will begin to work so that the structure in which they find themselves depends on them, and not vice versa. Where others will avoid difficult topics, they will delve deeper. Where others will be afraid to touch money, responsibility, and conflict, Scorpios will put everything in order and insist on clear rules. It is this position that will put them among those who in 2026 will not only have significantly higher incomes, but also leverage over their financial space. The first quarter of the year will be a time of preparation and cleansing. In January, Scorpios will sort through what has been dragging on for several years: old debts, unfulfilled financial obligations, unprofitable subscriptions, outdated contracts, and formal partnerships that have long lost their meaning. They will not just cut costs, but cut off anything that creates risks: dubious schemes, informal agreements, joint purchases without clear rules, loans for the sake of immediate effect. At this stage, Scorpio will form a clear mindset for themselves. In 2026, only those things that either bring in money or increase their basic level of security will remain in their financial sphere. In February, attention will shift to people who have access to Scorpio's money: business partners, family, managers, clients, those with whom they share financial responsibility. They will begin to look closely at who keeps their promises and who constantly puts things off until later. Where the illusion of normal relationships has persisted for years, it will turn out that someone is systematically using their resources, time, connections, knowledge, even money, without any real return. Scorpios will initiate conversations or set deadlines. Either the conditions will change, or the relationship will gradually be severed. March this year will be associated with building financial protection. Scorpio will create reserve funds, open separate accounts, and structure access to money so that no one from the outside can manipulate them through material leverage. They will think about what will happen if the market, job, partnership, or country of residence changes, and prepare backup options in advance. This will not be panic, but a higher-level survival strategy. They will minimize scenarios where someone can bring them to their knees by holding them financially by the throat. The second quarter of 2026 will be a period of offense, not defense. In April, Scorpios will start to act more aggressively in the sphere of work and business. They will move from the position of "I will be appreciated if I do everything perfectly" to the position of "I offer results and clearly state the price." This will apply to both hired labor and entrepreneurship. They will demand a salary review, a review of bonuses, a fixed percentage, and the introduction of a transparent bonus system. Where a company or partner is not ready to recognize their contribution, Scorpios will start looking for other points of entry. And, importantly, they will find them. In May, new contacts with long-term financial potential will be actively formed. Scorpios will get to know people who manage resources, business owners, investors, experts, department heads, and those who make decisions about budgets. They will not waste time on superficial acquaintances, but will instead focus on a few key figures with whom they can build mutual benefit. In May, they will cautiously but persistently demonstrate their value, the ability to see complex matters through to the end, competence in critical situations, and the ability to work where others fail. These demonstrations will eventually turn into money. June will be a month for launching serious projects. Some Scorpios will have the opportunity to take up positions with broad powers. Some will enter into partnerships, and some will start their own businesses or new directions in existing businesses. These will not be small initiatives. They will be formats involving significant sums of money. Scorpios will understand that along with potential profits, risks and responsibilities will also increase. They will agree, because 2026 will require them not to play it safe, but to move into areas where their character and endurance give them a competitive advantage. The third quarter of the year will mark the beginning of a period of growth management. In July, Scorpio will already feel that the financial flow has changed. Income will be more frequent, amounts will be larger, and tasks will be more complex. The question of control will arise. What do they trust others with? And what do they keep exclusively in their own hands? During this period, they will build an internal security system, distribute functions, introduce control points, and build a trust verification chain. 2026 will not be about blind trust in an accountant, partner, or manager. Scorpios will reserve the right to see the numbers, documents, and cash flows. In August, another task will arise, not to destroy what they have built through sudden emotional reactions. In moments of tense negotiations, conflicts of interest, and tough decisions, Scorpio, by nature, may go all in and burn bridges. In 2026, in August, it will be important for them to learn to restrain their all-or-nothing impulse. During this period, they will work on their ability to win not an instant argument, but a long game, to leave themselves room for maneuver, not to cut off relationships where it is possible to reformate the conditions and squeeze out the benefits. This will also be about money, the willingness not to destroy the source of profit, but to readjust it to the new rules. September will highlight the connection between psychological state and financial decisions. Scorpio will see how old resentments, mistrust, and traumatic experiences of past betrayals can provoke him to make financial mistakes. Excessive suspicion when he refuses normal offers, or conversely, the desire to prove something to someone through excessive risks. In September, they will consciously separate business from personal history, checking facts, working with numbers, looking at reports and contracts, rather than their own triggers. It is at this stage that they will learn to make big financial decisions without self-destruction. The final quarter of the year will be a time to consolidate results and reach a new level. In October, Scorpios will think about what to do with what they have already earned. For some, this will be their first large savings in foreign currency. For others, an opportunity to buy or renovate a home. And for others, an entry into investment instruments or real business assets. They will choose between simply spending beautifully and consolidating their position. 2026 will push them toward the second option, creating something that will generate income regardless of how many hours a day they personally work. November will focus on legal clarity and inheritance issues. Scorpios will be putting their documents in order: property, shares, rights, contracts, obligations. Some representatives of the sign will be dealing with issues related to inheritance, family business, property distribution, and participation in long-term programs. They will do this not from a position of conflict, but from a position of control, so that no decision without them can affect their financial future. November will be the moment when Scorpios realize that wealth is not only about how much they have earned, but also about how their assets are legally protected. In December, the overall picture for 2026 will become clear. Scorpios will review everything they have created: new roles, agreements, assets, sphere of influence, reserves. They will see how many risks they have managed to eliminate and how many weaknesses they have turned into strengths. By the end of the year, they will reach a point where they no longer have to resort to odd jobs or agree to toxic formats just because they have no choice. They will have a choice, and not just one. In December, Scorpios will plan their next steps not from a position of survival, but from a position of strength. A separate theme of 2026 will be hidden resources. Scorpios will discover things about themselves that have gone unnoticed or unmonetized for years. This could be the ability to conduct confidential negotiations, work with information that requires the utmost caution, understand complex legal or financial schemes, or support other people's projects in times of crisis. In 2026, they will stop doing all this for the company, for friendship, because it's a pity, and will begin to turn these abilities into a separate, valuable product. This is where one of the most powerful channels of income will open up. Where few are able to withstand the pressure, Scorpios will remain effective. On a more intimate level, 2026 will change the Scorpios' attitude towards shared money in relationships. They will no longer accept situations where their partner spends recklessly and all responsibility for stability falls on them. There will be agreed-upon rules: who owns what, who is responsible for what, how financial decisions are made, which amounts are shared, and which are personal. Where the partner is ready for transparent agreements, the relationship will strengthen and reach a new level of trust. Where resistance is too strong, Scorpios will seriously consider in 2026 whether it is worth continuing such a partnership. The topic of health this year will also be related to money. Scorpios will see how stress, overload, lack of sleep, and nervous breakdowns directly affect their financial ability to make decisions. They will introduce specific rules: a minimum of sufficient sleep, basic exercise, medical examinations, and giving up toxic habits that take away energy and money. It will become clear to them that every chronic condition they ignore is not only a risk to their body, but also the prospect of losing income at a critical moment. In 2026, he will invest more in prevention than in treating the consequences. Another important theme of the year is working with information. Scorpio will consume news, analytics, rumors, and insider information differently. He will stop reacting impulsively to market fears, panic, and other people's predictions. Instead, they will look for reliable sources, figures, reports, and opinions of people who really understand their fields. Thanks to this, 2026 will be the year when they make decisions based on facts rather than fear. In financial terms, this will mean fewer chaotic actions and more cold-blooded actions that bring predictable results. In professional circles, Scorpios will gradually become the go-to people in difficult situations in 2026. They will be called upon when it is necessary to resolve a conflict, close a risky deal, pull a project out of a crisis, or make an unpopular decision. They will be paid for this, precisely because not everyone is capable of withstanding the level of stress that is their normal environment. Over the year, such requests will increase, and with them, income and influence will grow. As a result, 2026 will make Scorpio one of the 6 signs mentioned in Baba Vanga's prediction. These people will reach a new level of financial power and life fulfillment. The path to this result will not be easy, but it will be as logical as possible for the nature of Scorpio, from cleansing and closing old risks to controlling resources, from tough talks to big deals, from internal transformations to external influence. At the end of the year, they will stand on much firmer ground than before, with a clear understanding. Wealth will come not as a stroke of luck, but as a direct result of their decisions, endurance, and willingness not to look away from the most difficult issues. Sagittarius. In Baba Vanga's prophecy for 2026, Sagittarius will stand out as a sign that combines bold decisions, big goals, and very specific financial results. People of this sign will not be satisfied with small benefits, temporary side jobs, or uncertain prospects. They will look far ahead and take steps so that every leap towards freedom is accompanied by an increase in income, rather than an escape from responsibility. It is Sagittarius who will be among those who, in 2026, will be called those who have managed to become wealthy and truly satisfied with how they live. The main theme of the year for this sign will be scale. Sagittarius will think not in terms of how to survive until the end of the month, but how to reach a level where you can choose your job, country, environment, and lifestyle. They will view their skills, connections, and knowledge as startup capital, not as something mundane. Everything that was previously perceived as talent for conversation, ability to interest others, and need for adventure will turn into resources directly related to money in 2026. At the beginning of the year, in January, Sagittarius will take the first serious step. They will formulate exactly why they need a lot of money. Not abstractly, just because, but in detail: separate housing, their own business, transition to a remote format, studying abroad, a new country, quality transportation, creating financial security for themselves and their loved ones. This month, they will write down their goals and compare them with their current way of earning money. Where the difference is too great, they will make an internal decision, either change their income model or let their dreams remain dreams. In February, the sphere of contacts will become more active. Sagittarius will begin to receive many signals from outside: offers of cooperation, invitations to new projects, opportunities to participate in something related to media, education, sales, travel, digital products, and international stories. They will communicate with people from other cities and countries, go to online platforms where they can monetize their knowledge, charisma, and experience. In February, they will test new formats: consulting, author content, participation in affiliate programs, and working with clients from abroad. The year will encourage him not to limit himself to one profession, but to look broader. March will add to the information load. Sagittarius will learn professional courses, languages, marketing tools, modern platforms for earning money, working with an audience, basic financial mechanisms. They will understand that desires alone are not enough. They need to have specific skills that allow them to earn money without being tied to one employer or one city. During this period, they will look for mentors, guides, people who have already walked the path that Sagittarius is just preparing for. Theoretical knowledge will quickly turn into practical experiments. In April, the first real selection of opportunities will begin. Sagittarius will receive several offers that will require them to make a decision: change jobs, sign a new contract, accept an offer that involves relocation, move to a different field, or invest in a project at the start. This will be the month when phrases like "someday" will no longer work. People of this sign will face a choice: leave everything as it is, with a predictable but limited income, or enter a new game with more risk, but also much greater potential. The year will be tense, but it is in April that Sagittarius will take one of the turning points of 2026. May will be the month when the first noticeable financial results begin to appear. The projects that Sagittarius joins in the spring will begin to bring in payments, first bonuses, premiums, interest, and fees. They will feel that their style, active, lively, and proactive, is finally truly appreciated and not just perceived as a pleasant addition to their personality. In May, his name will begin to be mentioned more often in connection with results: the one who closed the deal, the one who brought in the client, the one who pulled off the sales, the one who made the project noticeable. This will automatically lead to talk of money. In June, the topic of geography will arise. For Sagittarius, the question of place is always important, and in 2026, it will be directly related to money. There will be an opportunity to travel to another city or country for work or business, enter the international market, work with clients from different time zones, and enter platforms where payment is tied to currency rates. In June, they will assess where their efforts are best rewarded and which environment offers more room for growth. Some Sagittarians will prepare documents, negotiations, visas, and contracts related to legal entry into other jurisdictions. July will bring an intense pace. The calendar will be filled with meetings, online sessions, relocations, document signing, and deadlines. Sagittarius will work a lot, but not chaotically. The year will force them to finally learn how to structure their day and week so that their energy is not wasted. They will refuse projects that do not add stability or prospects. July will be the month when the core of their activities will be determined, which will provide the lion's share of their income. Everything else will either be postponed or completely eliminated. In August, the theme of freedom will come to the fore, but in a different sense. Sagittarius will understand that freedom without money is an illusion, and money without freedom is a cage. In 2026, they will strike a balance, creating a schedule that includes time for work, rest, travel, and learning. In August, ideas may emerge for personal projects related to topics they love: travel, foreign cultures, education, inspiration, and motivation. They will start thinking about how to turn their views and experience into a product that people will buy. Online programs, author courses, media projects, consulting for those who also want more than just a stable job. September will be a month of financial discipline. After a period of active movement, it will become clear that without a system of accounting, planning, and reserves, all results can be easily squandered. Sagittarius will introduce a budget, separate accounts, deferred amounts, automatic savings, and restrictions on impulse purchases. They will learn not to pour all their income into emotional rewards, but to distribute it, part for basic living expenses, part for development, part for reserves, and part for dreams. In September, they will truly feel for the first time that they are in control of not only their income, but also their expenses. October will open the door to major changes in status. It is at this time that Sagittarius may be called upon to serve as a partner, department head, media personality, brand ambassador, mentor, or project curator. The year will pick up on his willingness to be visible and translate this into specific financial terms: interest, royalties, fixed rates, and bonuses from turnover. October may be the month when he signs one of the most important contracts of 2026, not necessarily the largest in terms of amount, but one that will change his position in the market. November will be a time for course correction. After serious decisions and major deals, Sagittarius will see what worked and what didn't. He will weed out partners who can't keep up, projects that are burdensome but don't develop, and formats in which he feels limited. November will not be a crisis. It will be a planned review. What to keep as the main line, what to move to the additional category, and what to abandon completely. Outwardly, it may seem quiet, but right now, the final balance of power for the end of the year will be established. December will bring Sagittarius to a point where it will be clear what they will achieve in 2026. There will be concrete results on the horizon, amounts in accounts, new sources of income, a different level of freedom of movement, an expanded circle of influential contacts, experience working on larger projects, and the first real investments. They will see that this time, success is not based on luck. It will be a direct result of setting big goals at the beginning of the year, then taking a series of bold steps, making several difficult decisions, and continuing to learn and act throughout. The question of how Sagittarius will work with money at the level of inner convictions deserves special attention. In 2026, they will stop perceiving it as something that limits their freedom. On the contrary, they will understand that wealth gives them the opportunity to say a firm no to anything that contradicts their values. Humiliating conditions, toxic people, meaningless work. They will be less willing to compromise when their values are trampled on for the sake of stability. Instead, money will become confirmation that he has the right to choose what he thinks is right. In relationships with loved ones, 2026 will bring honesty. Sagittarius will speak openly about his plans, that he wants to travel more, live in other places, try new ways of working. Loved ones will have to accept that people of this sign will not put up with living by inertia. Where partners and family support their desire for development, strong alliances will form, where money will become a common tool. Where there are only prohibitions, pressure, and fears, Sagittarius will distance themselves in 2026 so as not to lose the opportunity to move forward. Health and energy will also have a clear connection with financial results. Sagittarius will understand that their resources are not only ideas and inspiration, but also physical condition. Constant travel, a busy schedule, and high stress levels will require taking care of the body. Restorative sleep, exercise, nutrition, and basic medical checkups. In 2026, they will consciously reject anything that steals their energy without compensation. Toxic people, exhausting habits, overload that does not bring added value. The better they take care of themselves, the longer they will be able to maintain a high level of performance. Professionally, Sagittarius will be perceived as someone who knows how to open doors. His natural ability to see opportunities, inspire others, and show perspective will be what he is paid for. This could be in the fields of education, sales, marketing, media, tourism, infobusiness, consulting, or public speaking. Wherever people are needed who are capable of igniting, showing scale, and maintaining the interest of the audience, Sagittarius will be in their element. 2026 will combine this quality with a clearly defined price tag. As a result, throughout 2026, Sagittarius will move from a chaotic desire for freedom to a structured path to a great life. They will reduce the time spent on doubts and reflections, and increase the time spent on specific actions, negotiations, training, launching projects, concluding contracts, expanding geography. Their financial results will reflect not random chances, but a consistent willingness to move forward, even when it is scary. It is this behavior that will make Sagittarius one of the 6 zodiac signs that Baba Vanga's prediction for 2026 will refer to as those who will be able to combine wealth, freedom, and an inner feeling that they are living to the fullest potential of their sign. Capricorn. In 2026, Capricorn will move towards money not with random leaps, but through a clearly constructed vertical. Goals: power over their own time, control over resources, stable capital. For this sign, the year will not be easy, but it will be as productive as possible. The native Capricorn will rise from the position of everything rests on him to the role of the one who sets the rules and distributes the flows. And that is why he will be among those who will be said to have become both wealthier and more confident in 2026. The main theme of the year for Capricorns will be that every additional responsibility will be rewarded. Where they used to silently carry out their duties and receive the same pay as those who just show up, the balance will now begin to shift. The year will raise them higher up the professional ladder, giving them access to important decisions, large budgets, and long-term contracts. But only if Capricorns themselves agree to step out of their comfort zone and clearly state what they want. The first part of the year, January and February, will be a period of strategic reassessment. Capricorns will not allow themselves to live by inertia. In January, they will sort out everything related to their career and money, their current position, scope of responsibilities, actual income, and prospects in the current structure. A sober balance will be drawn up: what the current position offers, what it does not offer, what ceilings are already hitting their head. At the beginning of the year, Capricorn will formulate for themselves what level of income, status, and freedom will be considered adequate for their experience. Capricorns will not leave these conclusions on paper. At this time, the first serious conversations with management, partners, or customers will be initiated. Capricorns will not ask for anything. They will operate with facts: the volume of completed tasks, the level of responsibility, savings for the company, and the cost of mistakes that they will prevent every day. Where his contribution has been taken for granted for many years, the tone will change. Capricorn will demand a formal reformatting of his role or set a deadline for himself, after which he will start looking for other options. Spring, March, April, and May will be associated with active movement. In March, several parallel paths will open up: a promotion offer, an opportunity to move to another company for a higher position, an invitation to a partnership business, an idea to create your own structure based on the experience you have already gained. Capricorn will not grab everything at once. They will calculate the level of risk, growth prospects, transparency of conditions, and legal nuances. But it will be difficult for them to remain completely static. The year will literally push them to a new level. In April, specific agreements will begin to be concluded. Confirmation letters, draft contracts, salary and bonus calculations, and job description drafts will appear. Where Capricorn agrees to a new role, the transfer of authority will begin: subordinates, budgets, access to internal information. For those who decide to start their own business, April will be a month of registrations, first contracts, renting premises, or connecting online infrastructure. All this will require significant resources, but this is where the foundation for further growth will be laid. May will bring the issue of workload to the surface. Capricorns will already feel that key processes are resting on their shoulders. Their schedule will become busy, demands from management or partners will increase, as will requests from the team. There will be a temptation to take everything on themselves, as they are used to doing. However, 2026 will require a different approach: delegation. In May, Capricorn will learn to distribute tasks, demand results from others, and build a structure so that his participation is only necessary where decisions cannot be made without him. Otherwise, the money will grow, but there will not be enough strength to handle it. The summer block, June, July, and August, will be a time when financial results become more apparent. At the beginning of summer, in June, the first serious sums will start to come in. Increased salaries, performance bonuses, shares from projects, first dividends, and significant fees. Capricorns will see that their new way of working is actually turning into money and not just staying a promise. Instead of worrying, "What if I made a mistake by agreeing to this role?" they'll have a clear understanding that it was the right move. This will immediately raise the question, how to deal with the new level of income. The year will force them to give up the old habit of working for peanuts. July will be a month of financial structure. Capricorns will begin to allocate money to separate segments, mandatory expenses, development, secure reserves, investments, and long-term goals. They will not spend their additional income on small emotional purchases, but will instead build a system where every amount has a purpose. In July, they will develop the habit of setting aside part of their income immediately after receiving it, rather than at the end of the month, if there is anything left. August will be associated with the first steps in the investment sphere. Capricorn will begin to explore opportunities for working with capital. Deposits, bonds, conservative instruments, participation in proven businesses, investments in real estate, land plots, professional equipment. They will not rush into aggressive speculative ventures, but they will not leave their money dead either. It is in August that the first purchases or investments will be made, which will later turn into stable sources of additional income. The autumn months, September, October, and November, will strengthen Capricorn's new status. September will reinforce the management theme. Capricorns will already be seen as the people who keep the system running. Production, department, project, financial unit. They will be consulted when it comes to deciding where to allocate resources, who to put in charge, and how to complete a difficult task within the budget. Accordingly, their formal weight will also grow. A new title, expanded powers, access to information that was previously off-limits. During this period, Capricorns will clearly see that their word will carry a lot of weight in financial decisions. October will raise the issue of long-term commitments. There will be an opportunity or a need to make decisions about major purchases, housing, office space, commercial real estate, or serious equipment. Some Capricorns will sign long-term contracts that will guarantee income for several years in advance. Others will enter into agreements related to business shares, partnerships, participation in boards of directors, and governing bodies. October will be the moment when Capricorns realize that they are not just working from month to month, but are shaping their trajectory for years to come. November will show how correctly the priorities were set. If in the previous stages, Capricorns were able to limit unnecessary expenses, did not allow themselves to waste energy on secondary conflicts, and entered into partnerships cautiously, then, in November, they will see a consistently high financial level without sharp fluctuations. There will be an opportunity to plan not for a week, but for 6 months and a year ahead. Education for themselves or their children, business modernization, changing their place of residence, and forming additional assets. This month, the feeling of support will be especially strong. December will end the year with a sense of controlled growth. Capricorns will analyze where they started at the beginning of 2026 and where they ended up. On paper or in spreadsheets, they will see a different level of income, different items of expenditure, different amounts of savings, and a different set of financial obligations. Decisions made in the first half of the year will prove their worth in the form of specific amounts and real opportunities. At the end of the year, Capricorn will not feel chaos in financial matters. On the contrary, they will see the system. Outside the calendar grid, 2026 will bring a profound internal transformation. Capricorns will stop evaluating their worth based on the number of hours spent. They will look at themselves through the prism of their competencies, their ability to take a punch, manage complex processes, and take responsibility for large blocks of work. This will become the basis for new financial agreements. The words, "I won't work like this," "I need different conditions," and "I expect different pay for this level of responsibility," will not be a sign of pride for them, but rather the norm of professional thinking. Relationships with loved ones will also change. Capricorns will no longer allow their resources to be used indefinitely. If earlier they could stretch the family budget for years, pay off other people's loans, and take on all the difficult decisions, in 2026 they will set boundaries. There will be talks about sharing expenses, everyone's fair participation, and joint planning of larger goals. Where their family partners listen to them, their level of inner peace and prosperity will grow rapidly. Where resistance is strong, Capricorn will begin to distance himself so as not to allow others to destroy his financial foundation. Health will become another key issue, but in a purely practical sense. Capricorn will clearly see that his ability to carry out large projects will directly depend on the state of his body. In 2026, they will undergo medical examinations, normalize their sleep patterns, introduce regular physical activity, and reduce harmful habits that affect their endurance. This will not be a fad, it will be part of their financial strategy. The better his body functions, the longer he will be able to maintain his chosen pace and hold his position in the structure. Working with documents will take on special importance. Capricorn will pay close attention to contracts, licenses, property rights, and tax nuances. They will not sign anything on trust that could later result in fines, confiscation, or disputes. In 2026, they will seek professional advice, lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, and rely on them where their expertise goes beyond their experience. This will save significant amounts of money that could be lost through carelessness. In a professional environment, Capricorns will act as a pillar of support. They will be looked to when it is necessary to withstand pressure from above, meet a critical deadline, or restore discipline where it has been lost. It is these qualities that will be rewarded with the highest rates in 2026. Managers and partners will understand that if Capricorn takes on a task, it does not need to be monitored on a daily basis. This will give them the right to demand not only decent pay, but also conditions in which they themselves can determine how to organize their work. As a result, 2026 will not bring Capricorns easy wins, but it will give them something that is especially valuable for this sign: a sense of their own strength, backed up by real numbers. They will come out of this year with the realization that their wealth is not accidental, not temporary, and not dependent on the whims of others. It will be the result of systematic decisions, endurance, and a willingness to take on difficult tasks and turn them to their advantage. That is why Capricorn will be one of those who will be talked about in the context of 2026. This sign will be able to build a foundation on which it can stand securely and move even higher. Aquarius. In 2026, Aquarius will not remain the same as before. Their financial reality will expand as far as they allow themselves to think. According to Baba Vanga's prediction, this sign will enter the circle of the chosen ones, for whom money will cease to be a chaotic flow and will turn into a controlled system tied to ideas, contacts, technologies, and inner freedom. People of this sign will not live by the principle of whatever happens. The year will gradually switch them to a mode where every decision will have a clear financial consequence. For Aquarius, 2026 will be a year of breakthroughs through non-standard formats, online projects, international collaborations, digital services, intellectual products, working with information and communities. Where others will be waiting for a stable salary, Aquarius will discover income models in which their main assets will be their unusual thinking, ability to see trends in advance, and ability to unite people around an idea. It is thanks to this that they will be among those who in 2026 will be called both wealthy and internally free. In January, Aquarians will find themselves at a crossroads between the old and new realities. On the one hand, there are the familiar formats: a stable job, a clear schedule, a fairly predictable income, but also strict boundaries. On the other hand, there are external demands: the opportunity to work remotely, participate in an international project, create your own product, or try your hand at a new digital niche. At this time, he will begin to honestly assess how much of his potential is not being utilized in the current system. It is in January that an internal decision will be made. 2026 will be used to stop working below his real value. February will activate their network of contacts. Aquarians will communicate more often with people from other cities and countries, update their profiles on social media, professional networks, and messengers, and allow themselves to showcase their competencies to a wider audience. The first requests will appear: consultations, joint broadcasts, participation in team projects, invitations to partnerships related to technology, innovation, promotion, and communities. People of this sign will still be cautious, but they will already feel that their ability to think outside the box is no longer a strange feature, and is beginning to turn into a sought-after resource. March will be a month of intellectual breakthroughs. Aquarians will be actively learning platforms, tools, digital marketing, working with audiences, creating online courses, products, services, monetizing knowledge, analytics, and creativity. They will gather fragments into a single system to understand where their unique style of thinking will best convert into money. At this time, they may discover new professional niches for themselves, from IT and consulting to creative industries, educational platforms, and analytical services. In April, the first concrete financial foundation will begin to take shape. Aquarius will receive offers that will require a clear answer: cooperation with foreign clients, hourly or project rates in foreign currency, participation in startups, development contracts, consulting or community management, contracts for the creation of digital products. This will be the moment when they stop perceiving themselves as just an employee and start talking in terms of value: what they will do, what results they will deliver, and how this will be evaluated financially. May has shifted the focus toward long-term strategies. People of this sign will think not only about how much they will earn in the coming month, but also about what income systems they will build. There will be an understanding that one-off projects are good, but models are needed where money will come in regularly: subscriptions, licenses, royalties, service agreements, long-term contracts with returning customers. In May, Aquarius will look closely at formats where one-off work creates the basis for multiple payments. June will be a period of first serious results. Aquarius will see how their new strategy begins to materialize. Several different sources of income: the first stable payments in currency, a basic flow of returning customers or users, visibility in their niche. They will begin to think in terms of not just one salary, but the sum of various channels: main activity, additional projects, digital products, consulting, and affiliate commissions. June will give them the feeling that they are no longer dependent on one employer or one market. July will change Aquarius's attitude towards spending. Against the backdrop of rising incomes, there will be a strong temptation to catch up on everything that was previously unavailable: gadgets, travel, impulse purchases, expensive entertainment. But the year will push them toward a different approach. Aquarius will learn to distinguish between expenses that eat away at the future and expenses that empower. They will invest in quality equipment, education, personal brand development, a comfortable workspace, and the ability to work from anywhere in the world. At the same time, they will create their first financial reserves to feel more secure in the face of any market fluctuations. August will bring the topic of geographical freedom to the surface. Aquarius will understand that their income is less and less tied to a specific office or city. At this time, decisions may arise about moving, traveling more often, combining work and changing locations, participating in international events, conferences, and meetups. For many representatives of this sign, August will be the point when they stop putting off the idea of living where they want if it does not conflict with their professional goals. At the same time, their financial base will no longer seem fragile. It will be based on real, rather than imaginary, income streams. September will shift the focus from experimentation to consistency. Aquarius will begin to put their finances in order. Separate accounts for personal expenses, business expenses, reserves, investments, tables, accounting applications, clear distribution of income by items. They will see that the more structured they are with money, the easier it will be for them to predict what will happen in a month, 3 months, or 6 months. September will be the time when they begin to set specific financial goals with dates: the amount for a safety net, the amount for scaling a project, the amount for a large purchase or move. October will open up the topic of scaling. Aquarius will already have working models and will begin to think about how to make them more profitable without total burnout. They will outsource some of the tasks, hire assistants, freelancers, and specialists to cover technical, routine, or narrow-profile areas. Aquarius will gradually cease to be the person who does everything and begin to become the one who designs the system, attracts people, coordinates processes, and sets standards. This will allow them to increase turnover without a proportional increase in workload. In November, the issue of reputation will become more acute. Aquarius will realize that their financial capabilities are now linked not only to their skills, but also to how clients, partners, colleagues, and the audience talk about them. At this time, they will be particularly attentive to the quality of work, deadlines, transparency of conditions, and clear agreements. They will realize that one well-executed contract now will bring several new clients in the future without additional advertising. November will be the month when Aquarius begins to treat their own name as an asset that generates income. December will sum up the financial results of the year and show how far they have come from their starting positions. By the end of 2026, Aquarians will see amounts in their accounts that previously seemed unlikely in their situation. They will have several channels of income, some of which will work semi-automatically. Old products will continue to sell. Long-term contracts will provide regular income. And investment decisions will begin to yield their first returns. The main indicator of success will be not only the figure on the balance sheet, but also the fact that they will no longer feel tied hand and foot to one point. At the same time, 2026 will rewrite Aquarius's attitude towards their own value. Where they used to agree to lower rates for the sake of experience, or so as not to miss an opportunity, they will now have a clear understanding that their ability to think ahead, bring people and ideas together, and see the big picture is a rare resource. This resource does not come cheap. Aquarius will learn to calmly voice their conditions and not be afraid to refuse projects where they are trying to buy them for pennies. This will not be pride. it will be a natural equalization of self-esteem. Personal relationships will also change structure. Aquarius will stop putting up with an environment that does not respect their desire for development, where partners or loved ones try to push them into the familiar scenario of stable mediocrity. They will begin to defend their goals, a change of job, lifestyle, relocation, or new schedule. In relationships where there is mutual support, Aquarius's financial growth will become a foundation for the overall rise of the family or couple. Where there are only fears and prohibitions, they will distance themselves so as not to allow other people's limitations to negate their opportunities. The topic of health in 2026 will manifest itself as a factor in productivity. Aquarius will observe how lack of sleep, a chaotic routine, overload, and a sedentary lifestyle directly affect his ability to think clearly, generate ideas, and stay focused. Therefore, they will gradually introduce new rules: stable sleep, exercise, breaks, basic medical examinations, and giving up the most destructive habits. They will view this not as the right way to live for the sake of appearances, but as the basis for financial resilience. The better their body works, the longer they will be able to work at the level they choose. Separately, for Aquarius, working with information space will become important in 2026. They will clean their feeds of toxic sources and stop mindlessly consuming news that only increases anxiety. Instead, they will subscribe to those who provide practical benefits: financiers, lawyers, entrepreneurs, and experts in their niche. This will reduce the chaos in their head and improve the quality of their decisions. Less information noise means more clarity about where to direct their resources. On a professional level, Aquarians will become the people through whom new ideas, solutions, and formats enter the system in 2026. They will be called upon when it is necessary to come up with ways to modernize a product, increase people's engagement, enter other markets, build a community around a brand, or redesign an outdated model to make it more flexible. These will be tasks that are difficult to describe with standard instructions, but it is in them that their talent will shine most brightly, and he will be paid for this, not as an ordinary performer, but as someone who changes the rules of the game. The final effect of the year for Aquarius will be that wealth will no longer seem like something foreign to him, intended only for conservative or overly practical people. They will see that their own style, freedom, creativity, unconventional solutions, technology, internationalism, goes perfectly with high income if they stop devaluing themselves and their thinking. 2026 will make Aquarius one of the 6 signs of the Zodiac for whom money will not be a chain, but a means to realize their ideas without regard for the fears of others. And it is in this combination, unconventional projects, financial independence, and inner lightness, that their true happiness will lie this year. Pisces. For Pisces, 2026 will be a period when their material standard of living will finally catch up with their inner depth. According to Baba Vanga's prediction, Pisces will be among those who will emerge from their usual state of survival and move on to stable prosperity, which will allow them not only to pay their bills, but also to realize their personal dreams. People of this sign will move toward money not through pressure or competition, but through the right choices, intuitively accurate decisions, and the courage to give up what no longer brings joy or benefit. In 2026, Pisces will not be pulling a chaotic set of tasks, but will build a simple but powerful logic. The more honest they are with themselves, the more life will reward them with money. The year will gradually take away from them the people, work formats, and habits that have blocked their growth. Instead, opportunities will open up where their empathy, creative thinking, and ability to see what others do not notice will be rewarded handsomely. In January, Pisces will look at their financial past as material for conclusions, not self-criticism. People of this sign will analyze where they underestimated themselves, where they agreed to work for free, where they spent resources on those who did not even plan to give anything back. An internal list of "this will never happen again" will be created. At this time, the first clear vision will emerge. What minimum income will become the norm? What exactly needs to be changed in their activities? Who to stop saving at their own expense? February will reinforce the theme of trust in one's own decisions. Pisces will stop agreeing with others' arguments out of inertia if they feel internal resistance. They will be more cautious about signing papers and will not make hasty financial decisions under the pressure of other people's emotions. Some representatives of the sign will refuse old credit histories, burdensome subscriptions, and joint expenses that have long been a source of tension. February will be a month of gentle but decisive cutting off of everything that drags their budget down. March will open up a new perspective on their talents. Pisces will notice that what they have been doing for years, for insurance, support, consulting, creative ideas, design, text, visuals, help with promotion, psychological support, has long had market value in the world. They will begin to think about how to translate this from the realm of free goodwill into a paid product or service. It is in March that the first thoughts about their own projects will appear. Websites, blogs, consulting practices, creative studios, participation in a team as a specialist who is paid for their depth, and not just for mechanical work. In April, life will gradually push Pisces to step out of the role of the convenient person. Where they have been doing someone else's work for a long time but have only received a portion of the reward, the topic of money will become paramount. Pisces will talk about raising rates, revising conditions, and clear profit sharing. If the response is ignorance or manipulation, they will be ready to leave such formats. April will be the moment when this sign will stop silently agreeing to thanks instead of payment. May will bring the first noticeable financial changes. People of this sign will receive money from new sources, paid consultations, copyrighted works, creative commissions, paid sessions, participation in joint projects, where they will no longer be perceived as extra help. At the same time, the number of situations in which their resources were used without return will decrease. Pisces will see the difference. When they agree to fair terms, their wallet gets fatter, and when they allow themselves to be used, the opposite happens. June will be a month when the key theme will be the structure of the day and the schedule. Pisces often live in a mode of emotional waves, but 2026 will gradually teach them to consolidate results. In June, they will plan their working hours, set aside time for specific tasks, and not get caught up in other people's stories when it interferes with their work. There will be a feeling that the amount of income directly depends on how the day is organized. Pisces will train themselves to see things through to the final payment, rather than disappearing in the middle of the process due to fatigue or emotional overload. July will intensify the theme of surroundings. Those who are close to Pisces will have a strong influence on their finances. If these are people who constantly drag them down, complain, reject new ideas, and keep them stuck in old patterns, the year will gradually push such people aside. If, on the other hand, they are surrounded by people who support them, share their experience, advise them on how to market their services, how to set the right prices, and how to work with clients, it is with these people that they will see key jumps in income. July will show that Pisces money in 2026 will go hand in hand with a more energetically pure circle of communication. August will shift the focus to personal comfort, and basic living standards. Pisces will think about the conditions in which they live, work, and relax. This month, they may decide to change their place of residence, renovate their space, create a separate place to work, or buy something that will improve the quality of their everyday life. A comfortable desk, appliances, lighting, or time-saving household appliances. This will not be a waste of money, but an investment in working more efficiently and recovering faster. August will teach Pisces that money should also work for their nervous system. September will bring more rationality to financial decisions. Pisces will make budgets, plan expenses in advance, and distinguish between mandatory payments, pleasant purchases, and investments in development. They will stop living in the mode of spend everything first, then think about how to survive until the next paycheck. Simple but effective rules will emerge. Set aside a portion immediately, do not get into debt for emotional impulses, and do not take financial responsibility for people who systematically break their promises. September will be a month when Pisces will accumulate not only experience, but also real reserves of strength. October will highlight the topic of formal agreements. People of this sign will be more careful about what they sign and agree to. They will no longer work on their word when it comes to large sums of money or long-term projects. Agreements with clients, partners, employers, landlords, and credit organizations during this period will be recorded in such a way as to protect the interests of Pisces. October will be the month when this sign finally stops sacrificing its rights for the sake of peace in relationships. November will shift the focus to professional depth. Pisces will understand that it is beneficial for them to stop being jacks of all trades and strengthen one or two key competencies. For some, this will be psychology. For others, creativity. For others, working with text, design, video. And for others, mentoring, working with people, management. In November, they will delve deeper, training, practical cases, working on more difficult tasks that pay significantly more. This will be the time when Pisces will move from cheap versatility to becoming valuable specialized experts. December will give Pisces the opportunity to see the scale of the changes. By the end of the year, they will have a different financial picture. Less chaotic spending, less guilt about money spent in the wrong place, more conscious income, and more balance between giving and receiving. They will either have a more stable income at work, where their uniqueness is valued, or their own business or hybrid format, where they do not depend on one person. In December, Pisces will feel for the first time that they have enough money not only for basic needs, but also for long-postponed desires. On an internal level, 2026 will radically change Pisces' attitude toward money. They will stop believing that spirituality and material success are incompatible. On the contrary, they will come to understand that the better their financial situation is, the more freedom they will have to support others, to do charity work, to be creative, and to live a quality life. They will abandon the idea that, for the sake of kindness, one can endure deprivation and replace it with the statement, "My wealth allows me to help others without self-destruction." The sphere of relationships will also be closely intertwined with finances. Pisces, who are used to supporting their partners or relatives, paying for other people's mistakes, and covering other people's debts, will gradually stop this pattern in 2026. They will talk about joint budget planning, fair division of expenses, and mutual responsibility. Where there is a willingness to build a partnership on equal terms, relationships will reach a new level of support and trust. Where only another self-sacrifice is expected of them, Pisces will set boundaries and, if necessary, leave such relationships. Health will not be a separate issue for Pisces, but part of their financial strategy. 2026 will show how much their earnings are affected by energy, sleep, the nervous system, nutrition, the ability to rest, and the ability to stop in time. Pisces will introduce rules, not to work to exhaustion, not to allow themselves to live only on coffee and stress, to visit doctors not only when they are already on the brink. They will invest in tests, prevention, sports, or gentle practices that stabilize their emotional background. As a result, their performance and creative potential will remain stable rather than jerky. In the professional environment, Pisces will play a special role in 2026. Where others will only look at dry numbers, they will see connections, moods, and possible scenarios. Their voice will be important in matters where it is necessary to sense risks, understand people's motivations, and determine which format of a proposal will work best. It is precisely this ability to read situations subtly that will become their strong tool. And where management, teams, or clients learn to appreciate this depth, Pisces will receive compensation commensurate with their contribution. In 2026, they will be less likely to accept roles that require them to silently follow instructions and will more often choose positions that offer room for influence, creativity, and working with people. These may be areas such as psychology, coaching, creative industries, media, education, charitable or social projects, but no longer based on bare enthusiasm, but on clear financial terms. Pisces will come to the conclusion that their empathy is not a weakness, but a tool that has every right to be paid for. In summary, 2026 will be a year when Pisces learn to combine sensitivity and pragmatism. Each month of this year will separate the old patterns of sacrifice and taking on other people's problems from a new approach, respect for their own limits, time, energy, and money. It is thanks to this that Pisces will be among the 6 signs for whom Baba Vanga's prophecy of wealth and happiness in 2026 will come true, not as a one-time gift of fate, but as a result of consistent, wise, and internally honest decisions.